Hi, I'm Dave, founder of Halloween Year Round, and today we are here to talk about the Conjuring series, or more specifically, my experience meeting the one and only Lorraine Warren. About 7 or 8 years ago, I went on what she used to run. They were called these Warrenology tours that she ran out of her house. You would go there, you would meet her, and then you would actually get to go into the basement, which you saw in the Conjuring movies, that had all of the artifacts and items from all their cases. It was a really cool experience. It was unlike anything I'd ever seen before. So for this topic, we're going to talk to a very good friend of mine, Tony, who was actually with me both times. Yes, it was two times that we drove up to Connecticut from Pennsylvania to meet Lorraine Warren. So let's go to Zoom. Tony, how's it going? Long time no see.
Not much, man. I've been looking forward to this movie since it was supposed to come out, and I reread the book, and then it never came out.
No, but just with this new movie coming out, I'll admit I'm kind of tired of the spin-offs. I want Conjuring movies, and I'm glad we're finally getting this one. And it's sort of the reason I wanted you on here to talk about this. It takes me back to the two times we met Lorraine Warren. We were very, very fortunate to get to meet her kind of at the end of when she was still running those tours out of her house. And then sadly, she passed away a few years later. So let's wind the clocks back. It's fall of 2013. And we drove up. The first time it was at the event at the restaurant where they were doing a screening. And that was the first time we ever met her. So what were your impressions of her, seeing the movie and then meeting her?
My impression of her was literally just like the epitome of a grandmother.
She was like the sweetest little old lady, and you couldn't believe the stories she had.
Yeah, some of those stories were great, especially with the first Conjuring movie and her saying how, when the movie starts, it's like one of their most horrible cases ever. So she's like, no, that was a really fun case.
Mm-hmm. And they had already seen, Amityville get made, The Haunting in Connecticut get made without their involvement at all, even though they wanted to be involved.
Well, it worked out for the better because now they have their own series, and they would have only been a small part in Amityville, or
I think so.
The house that haunted in Connecticut, and that movie was horrible anyway. So
because they weren't involved. I remember asking Lorraine just flat out, my question for her that night. I said, what was the most terrifying or most haunted case you'd ever seen? And without hesitation, she said Amityville.
Amityville affected my personal life more than any case I ever worked on. I will never go in that home ever again.
So we met Lorraine for the first time. I want to say, was that like October? And then 2 months later, we went up for the Warrenology event at her house. Speaking of Amityville, we made a little stop on our way up to Connecticut. You'll notice the big fence, the giant sign that says no trespassing, private property, and even the windows at the top of the house. Some previous owner had them swapped out with the regular, rectangle windows, so it looked less recognizable.
Oh, they changed a lot, and apparently with the sign and the giant fence, people still know. They even changed the actual address so that people could.
They did. It. I still found it. I am not 100% certain one way or the other about supernatural things. Part of me, I want to know, but I also don't want to know. I like the mystery of it. Mm-hmm. And if I ever did find out, I'd be the first one to run the other way screaming. No shame.
I have heard real stories, and I'm also doing my own with the Razzi Report, where I want people to send in their own personal stories So if anyone wants to do that, just put Anthony Razzi at Gmail or Razzi Report at Gmail and give me your story, because I'm going to do a podcast. I just need more stories to get started. And I have heard some, normal ones where like there was banging on the wall and yeah, it was probably a mouse, but more personal stories that seem more legitimate. That's like, why would you make that up? So yeah, give me the real story. I don't need the ending of The Conjuring to always be an exorcist if there was no exorcism. But that's what makes me believe in the supernatural as the real stories where it's just some little thing that happened to them more than, yeah, I lived in a haunted house, played with the Ouija board, got scared, we moved out.
Today is Saturday, December 7th, 2013. Time is 5:51 p.m. This is Dave Pierdomenico and
Anthony Razzi.
We are here at the house of Lorraine Warren in Monroe, Connecticut. What follows is everything we see and hear.
If you don't see us again, call a priest.
So when we first got there, they had us in like her living room with the TV and chairs. And if you remember, that's when they showed us the video, where we saw a few videos, all kind of strung together. We saw the actual footage from Maurice's exorcism. Maurice, who we learn about in the first Conjuring movie, the one who in Conjuring 2, they talk about, that's when Lorraine had her vision. And he's also featured in The Nun, a younger version of him, which I didn't like that connection because that had nothing to do with the actual story. I didn't like that they kind of shoehorned him in that when he has a real story that, like you were saying before, is tragic and depressing.
So Maurice had a bad childhood. But then when he got older, young adult, he began to dabble in occult practices too. So he had that against him also. So when he became older, he would come under diabolical possession at times. He'd have cross marks appear on his chest and on his back, like someone took a scalpel and made crosses on his back and on his chest. Then the priest at one point says something to Maurice in Latin, and Maurice instantaneously answers and whispers to him in Latin, backwards in Latin to him. And remember when I told you Maurice only had a third grade education? Where did this Latin come from?
Lectio Sancti Evangeliis secundum Marcum. Nella tempore digregis Bishop Restuus inter commandum universum predicate Evangelium omni creaturae.
What really intrigued me about the real footage of his exorcism was kind of like how you mentioned before, how it wasn't over the top. It was quiet. It was creepy. And when he would spit, he was wearing a white t-shirt and the saliva turned red when it hit the shirt.
Yeah, that was the most freaky. Well, maybe not because of the upside down crosses too.
Oh my God. We had like a 3-hour drive back that night. We didn't get home till like 4 a.m. I still didn't sleep. Then, of course, we got the tour of the museum. We met Annabelle.
Right.
I actually have Annabelle here with me right now. I have this version. I have this version. And OG. So besides meeting Annabelle and getting our picture with her, what were some of the other things down there that really struck you as interesting or that have stuck with you after all these years?
I can name 3 right off the bat. The dinosaur.
Yeah.
Will hopefully be in the new one.
The dinosaur, which we believe was part of the Arnie Johnson case, which is the subject of the third Conjuring movie, but we'll get to that.
Right, we'll get to that later, but that one definitely. Another one that it looked like a mummy, but much thinner, and it was like an alien mummy.
Like the weird looking, almost like he was made of like wicker. or paper mache.
Paper mache. Yeah,
And
it was
he
paper
had like the
mache.
horns.
Yeah.
I think they said that had been brought in by the police because it was
Yes.
being used in like satanic rituals.
Yeah.
That thing
But-
was freaky.
Yeah, but they also found like bones of animals and humans from the
Oh
the
my
same location.
god.
And then the two other normal ones, but still very interesting. The really cool Necromonicon that they had.
I was a history major, so just as a fan of the Conjuring movies and of horror and of history, I loved that just going through there, everything had a story. I expected to see creepy stuff. I knew Ed was an artist. I knew that when they met, they were actually house painters for a while. I knew all that. You know what I was not expecting to see at their house was the chicken.
The rooster.
Yeah, they loved animals, and they just randomly had a rooster, and Tony Sparrow was like, "Oh yeah, you know, Ed had a pet fox that locked him out of his car one time." I love that, you know, just those little details kind of humanize them. I am so incredibly grateful that we did get the chance to meet her twice.
Yeah, it was amazing that one, we got to watch The Conjuring with Lorraine Warren, but two, we're lucky enough to get tickets to go back for that last one.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew something was wrong, like not with her that she like, she's gonna die or anything, but just the way Tony Sparrow said that, when we went to the cemetery to see Ed's grave, that this would be the part where Lorraine would normally come with us and sit by the grave and tell stories about Ed. But
Yeah, I remember she couldn't. I mean, yeah, at that point she was already, well into her 80s. Her health was declining, and I think we were lucky to have her as long as we did. And I know we were talking earlier just about all the cases, so I feel like I have to ask you so with Conjuring 3, or sorry, Conjuring the Devil Made Me Do It, which, by the way, hate that title. Just call it Conjuring 3.
Yeah.
So
But
with that coming out, what's another case you really want to see made as a movie, and why?
definitely the werewolf one, because it was one of my favorite books. It was a great story, and it's different from any of the three that are getting made right now.
It's not really about like an exorcist. I mean, it involved, spoilers, he's not really a werewolf, but it's like he's possessed by a lycanthrope spirit that makes him act like a wolf. So it's like the gritty version of like the Wolf Man.
The lycanthropy idea, there's two different ones. Is the werewolf one was just the one from that story, but when one of the stories we heard when we were at Lorraine's house was, I think it was a tiger, and it was astral projection, and he kind of went into the tiger, and the tiger killed like several people.
If I had to pick one case that I'd love to see, it's a small one. It's one that's only mentioned briefly, but there's a movie in there. It's the West Point Ghost.
Oh, okay.
Because
That was short.
It's short, but I think that you could build a story around it. And I kind of love the idea. These movies are interesting when you see Ed and Lorraine kind of challenged for their ideas. And I just think it would be really cool for them to come in, nobody wants them there. This is West Point. This is like the esteemed military academy. And I think it would be interesting to see them kind of at odds with a sort of, very hardline, strict military guy who's like, this is nonsense. But then he sees, what's really there. I think this, the demon trial, the demon murder trial case that this movie is based on is probably our favorite story. It's the most interesting one they've ever done.
We did go, if you remember, to one of the places where the murder took place, and it was like a veterinary
Oh,
clinic.
oh, I remember. It was the it was the parking lot of a vet.
Yeah.
Totally unassuming place. Conjuring the Devil Made Me Do It is coming out Friday, June 4th in theaters and on HBO Max. It's actually my birthday weekend, so I might have to see it in the theater just for that. I'm probably gonna, I'll watch it in the theater and then immediately come home and watch it again on HBO Max. It's what I'll do because that's just me. So
Agreed.
where can my viewers find you?
Right now, I'm just taking stories for Razzi Report. So it's razzireport@gmail.com or anthonyrazzi@gmail.com. And then just let me know if you want me to change like names or dates or place for privacy issues.
And it's for anyone who has like a supernatural story, something they experienced with the paranormal, send you their story.
Yep, send me your story, send me any details you have.
So thank you again for joining us. We definitely need to get together again. I don't have any stories for you, but I'd love to talk about some of your stories. And I'd love to have you on again. I know you're almost as big a horror fan as me, maybe more. That's up for debate.
I think it's just different. I think you're more into the slasher with Saw, and I'm more into the things such as like The Conjuring and the more realistic stuff.
Maybe that's it. We're both demented, though. Quick side note. So I'm editing this video. Everything seems to be going fine. I'm pulling all the clips. And there's like this one sequence of like 10 minutes from visiting Lorraine Warren's basement that every time I drop it in the video, the whole program crashes. I tried a bunch of other things, and it's that one stretch. I don't know what it is about it, but it's really freaking me out because, like, what if something in there doesn't want to be seen? Really creepy. Probably not going to sleep tonight. Back to the video. Well, I hope you enjoyed that conversation and that us just going back and forth about our demented fascinations was of interest to you. If you'd like to see more of that, subscribe to the channel, like, share, all the YouTube stuff. You can follow me on Facebook, Twitter. You can check out the website, HalloweenYearRound.com, for more. This is just the very beginning of Conjuring Week. I got a whole other lineup of just, articles. We're going to do another video. We're going to do a ranking of the whole Conjuring universe at the end after Conjuring 3 comes out and I do my review. So stay tuned, stay scared, and remember, every day is Halloween.